Welcome back to Things That Are Prep podcast, everyone. I'm so glad you could join us again.
It's great to be back.
I think a lot of our listeners have probably wondered about this, reading faster,
Right.
but without losing all the good stuff, all the information.
Yeah. That's really the key, isn't it?
It is. It's like a balancing act or something.
It is. You want the power to go quickly, but you got to be in control too, so you can still enjoy what you're reading and really get it.
I like that analogy a lot. And wouldn't it be amazing to just fly through articles and textbooks and things?
Oh, for sure.
I know I could use a couple more hours of my day.
Absolutely. Imagine taking in all that information so fast, but still really understanding it. That's the dream.
Yeah, that's what we're going for. So, I guess to start, I've heard people talk about skimming and scanning. Are those good places to begin?
Those are great starting points. Think of them as your tools for checking things out. Skimming is when you're looking at a map from above, you see the big picture, the main roads and important landmarks. You're not worried about every little detail, just getting the general idea.
So skimming is for when you want a quick overview. What about scanning? When is that useful?
Scanning is perfect when you need a specific piece of information. It's like using a flashlight to find something in the dark. You're not looking at everything, just zeroing in on what you need.
So like a date or a name or some specific fact?
Exactly. And it's super helpful when you have a ton of text and you need to find something fast.
I can see how those would both be really useful, especially if you don't have a lot of time. Now, okay, I have a confession. I'm a terrible subvocalizer. I read every word in my head. It's a problem.
I know what you mean. A lot of people do that, especially when they're learning a new language. But it can really slow you down.
Yeah. Any tips for breaking that habit?
Well, one thing you can try is to get your eyes used to seeing groups of words, not just one word at a time, like phrases or even short sentences.
So instead of reading the quick brown fox jumped, word by word, it's more like seeing the whole thing as one unit.
Exactly. You got it. It might feel weird at first, but trust me, your brain is amazing at adapting.
Okay.
Another trick is to use your finger or a pen to guide your eyes. It helps them move smoothly and keeps them from stopping on individual words.
Oh, so it's like you're training your eyes to move like a dancer.
I like that, smooth and fluid.
Across the page.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess like a dancer, you can practice to get better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are exercises you can do to train your eye movements, things like following moving objects or tracing patterns.
Wow, I never thought about that. You can actually train your eyes to read better. That's so cool.
Yeah, it is. And when you train your eyes, you can actually start to see more at once, kind of like expanding your peripheral vision.
So we've got all these great techniques for reading faster, but how do we make sure we're actually understanding everything? I don't want to just be racing through pages and not remembering anything.
Right. That's important. Well, that's where active reading comes in. It's kind of like you're having a conversation with the text.
Okay.
You're not just sitting there taking it all in.
Yeah.
You're thinking about it, asking questions, making connections to what you already know.
So it's more like a dialogue.
Exactly. But how do you actually talk to a book, right?
Right.
One way is to ask yourself questions as you go.
Right.
What's the main point here? How does this relate to what I read before? Do I agree with this author? Those kinds of things. It keeps your mind working and helps you really understand what you're reading.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So asking questions helps you focus and understand better. Are there any other active reading strategies that you would recommend?
Oh, definitely. Summarizing is another good one. When you finish a section or a chapter, take a minute to sum up the key points in your own words. You can do it in your head or jot down some notes. It forces you to put everything together and make sure you got the main ideas.
It's like a little test to see if you're paying attention. Okay, but what about all those tough vocabulary words that you come across? I feel like I hit a wall sometimes when I'm reading.
I hear you. A strong vocabulary is so important. It's like having a key to unlock the meaning of everything you read. The more words you know right away, the smoother your reading will be.
That's true.
Yeah.
So how do you build up your vocabulary?
Well, one thing that really helped me is keeping a word journal. Whenever I see a new word, I write it down with the definition and maybe an example sentence. That way I'm really thinking about the word and it sticks in my memory better.
It's like making your own personal dictionary. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, it is. And don't be afraid to actually use the new words you learn. Try using them in your own writing or when you're talking to people. The more you use them, the more natural they'll become.
That's a great tip. Speaking of new things, have you ever tried any of those speed reading apps that are out there? Do they really work?
They can be helpful, but you have to be careful. Some apps are good for training your eyes to move faster and to stop saying the words in your head, but they shouldn't be the only thing you rely on.
Right, so they're more like a supplement to the other techniques we've talked about.
Yeah, exactly. Think of them as a fun way to challenge yourself and see how you're doing. But don't forget to still really engage with the text and use those critical thinking skills.
Okay, that makes sense. What about other digital tools? Are there any that you find particularly useful?
Well, besides those speed reading apps, I really like those digital annotation tools,
Oh, yeah.
the ones that let you highlight and underline and take notes right on your digital texts. They're amazing for active reading, and they make it super easy to go back and review stuff later.
I use those all the time,
Yeah.
especially when I'm doing research online.
Yeah.
It's way better than printing everything out and making a mess with highlighters.
I know, right? And then there are also all those online courses and tutorials out there. There are so many great resources that give you structured lessons on speed reading and how to understand what you read better. Some of them even give you personalized feedback, which can be really helpful.
Wow. It's amazing how much is available these days. So we've talked about a lot of different tools and techniques. It sounds like we've got a whole toolkit to help us become better readers.
Yeah.
But one thing I struggle with is distractions. I'm easily distracted.
Oh, yeah.
My phone is always there calling to me.
Yeah.
And there's always something else I could be doing instead of reading.
Distractions are a big problem for a lot of people. It's all about creating the right environment for yourself. Find a quiet place, put your phone away, close all those tempting tabs on your computer, get rid of anything that might pull your attention away from your book.
So out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And if you find yourself reading the same sentence over and over, that's a sign that your mind is wandering. Try using a pointer, like your finger, or a pen to guide your eyes. It helps to keep them moving forward and stops them from jumping back.
That's a really good tip. I'm definitely going to try that. Have you ever tried mindfulness? I've heard that can be helpful for focus.
Mindfulness can be really powerful. Even just a few minutes of deep breathing or meditation before you start reading can make a big difference. It helps to calm your mind and improve your concentration.
Mindfulness seems like it's becoming more and more important for everything these days.
It really is.
Yeah.
And when it comes to reading, having a calm and focused mind can really make or break your experience.
This has been such a great conversation. I feel like I have a whole new set of tools and tricks to try out. I'm actually excited to read my next book now.
That's great to hear. It really does feel like you can make reading your own, personalize it.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm taking away from all this, that it's not just about going fast. It's more about really getting into it and making it your own.
That's a great way to put it. It's like the difference between just watching a movie and actually getting lost in the story.
Right. You want to feel something when you're reading.
Exactly. You want to walk away feeling like you learned something new or saw things differently or just had a really great time.
Yeah, I like that. So, what's one piece of advice you'd give to our listeners who want to get better at reading?
I would say don't try to do too much at once,
Okay.
Start small. Pick one or two things that you want to work on and practice them regularly. Maybe you focus on not saying the words in your head so much, or maybe you try out one of those digital tools.
Right.
The important thing is to make it a habit and to celebrate your progress as you go.
That's good advice. It reminds me of what we talked about earlier. Reading is a journey, not a race.
Exactly. It's about getting better, not being perfect.
Right. And who knows, maybe you'll even start to love reading even more along the way.
I think that happens to a lot of people. The more you read, the more confident you become and the more fun it is.
Well said. I think we covered a lot of ground today. We talked about skimming and scanning and active reading and even mindfulness.
It's been a great conversation.
Me too. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And to all of our listeners out there, we hope you got some good tips and are feeling inspired to become better readers. Remember, improving your reading skills can open up so many doors. So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep turning those pages.
Happy reading, everyone.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of the English Prep Podcast. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of speed reading. We'll be back next week with another exciting topic to help you master the English language. Until then, keep practicing and stay curious.